150 kilometers north of Kamloops in east-central BC is a vast and rugged wilderness area known as Wells Gray Provincial Park. In this park, covering over 520,000 hectares, the tracking and management of wildlife is a job for both man and machine.
Helicopter and I'm putting a charge in. Oh, this one right down here off our shoulder. There. One or two? Right, this is the one. See it in the trees there? You want to try and get her in one? Yeah, I wonder if we can work her to the right. Let's try and move her out this way. Yeah, once we get them into the open, we'll have her made, I think. She'll be going across the meadow in a second here. Okay, you all set? Okay, I got her cocked. Try and get low, Tom. I'll try and get more of a flat angle on her. Might help. Yeah. Hold on. Yeah. Hold it. Hold. Okay. That's much better. Hey, we got her.
In 1985, we started a caribou management program to assess where the caribou were, what they were doing, what they were eating, whether they were residing in the park, whether their summer range and winter ranges were in the park. We've been able to determine that the majority of the caribou, a population of about 250, close to 300, do remain within Wells Gray Park for the better part of the year.
Biologist Dale Seep has had extensive experience in this field. It was his study focusing on the caribou in the Quesnel Highlands adjacent to Wells Gray Park that brought him to the attention of the park staff. The caribou living in the Quesnel Highlands were found to have a very high mortality rate. Over half the adult caribou losses were due to wolves. Approached by the parks, he agreed to study what was happening with the caribou populations in Wells Gray Park.
So we then moved on and expanded the study to include Wells Gray Provincial Park because there was a concern that simply protecting this large area of wilderness may not be adequate to protect the caribou if in fact something like wolf predation was the major limiting factor. And there, surprisingly to us, the results were actually quite different. The caribou population in Wells Gray Park was doing very well indeed. Prior to about 1860, moose did not live throughout most of British Columbia. They lived in northeastern BC, and then about 1860 they began to colonize and spread throughout the province. They got to the Wells Gray area about 1930.
It is this migration of the moose throughout much of BC that Dale Seep believes has affected the caribou. A simulation model based on realistic biological relationships between moose, wolves, and caribou was developed.
Okay, this line here is the caribou population. The wolf population is then added, and this is the moose population coming in now. The wolf population increases, but the effect of that on the caribou is now that there's more wolves out there, they're killing more caribou, and the caribou population declines almost to extinction.
Knowing exactly what was happening became essential to wildlife management.
Again, the purpose of this program was to put radio collars on the caribou to be able to monitor them on a bi-weekly basis through telemetry flights and to determine exactly where they were going.
There they are, the whole herd. Okay, right down here in our left.
Since that, we have tied in a wolf collaring program to see where their predators were going and see what sort of overlaps there were in their range. And this is the third phase of that, where we have initiated collaring moose. The reason for that is moose are the prime feed for the predator wolves. We would like to determine if the range of the moose and the range of the wolves are in the same area. We have a lot of good guesses, but the collars will allow us to determine exactly what's happening.
Now we have basically different techniques for each animal. For the caribou, we catch them using a net gun, which is a handheld gun which projects a net shot from a helicopter, and this simply tangles up the caribou, and then you can get on top of it and handle it. We put the radio collar on, ear tags, which make it easier to spot the animals, and we take a blood sample, and the blood sample allows us to determine the pregnancy rate, so we can see what proportion of the females are pregnant. With the wolves, they're caught either in the summer using leg hold traps or in the winter using neck snares. And finally, the procedure then for catching the moose is simply to fly around in the helicopter looking for them, and then we have to move them out into a somewhat more open area, and the animal is then darted. The helicopter comes down as close as necessary, the dart's shot into the animal, and then the helicopter pulls away, because you don't want to be chasing and stressing the animal with the helicopter while the drug is taking effect. Within 5 or 10 minutes, the animal will have gone and laid down. The first thing you do is put cover over the animal's head. This just really settles it down. Put on the radio collar. All the radio collars transmit at a different frequency. And when that's done, there's an antidote that the moose is given, and that antidote counteracts the effect of the drug, so within 3 or 4 minutes, it's able to get back up again and walk away.
The key to caribou survival in Wells Gray Park is believed to be the topography. Caribou live year-round at high altitudes, while moose and wolves winter in valley bottoms. In the spring, the moose migrate up into higher country, and wolves follow. In the Quesnel Highlands, this puts all 3 animals in the same territory. But in Wells Gray, as the moose and wolves move up into the hillsides, caribou migrate even higher into the rugged alpine areas that exist in the park. This creates a very important spatial separation.
And basically, this migration to the very rugged parts of Wells Gray Park maintains this spatial separation between the caribou and the wolves, and we believe that then explains the much better survival rate and the lower predation rate on the caribou in the park.